All right, we're gonna get started. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Jana. I'm the director here. Studies, and I was the lead faculty for this trip, the study abroad in Thailand and Laos. There were actually supposed to be two of us, faculty leads, but I guess we didn't have enough people to put the bunch of people. But we did have 15, as you can see here. And we had a great time, regardless of what. So we are here today to just share some of the learnings that we all got along the way, and so that you can hear from the people who participated in the program. And I think our trip was really successful because we actually had a mix of faculty, staff, and students who went. And we actually had, I don't know when you're going to talk, but we'll fit you in somewhere.
Okay.
So let me introduce our panelists. So we have Janice Wong. She is the student activities guru. I don't know what your title is exactly, but student activities guru here at Fresno City College. We have Rigoberto Garcia, who is an ethnic studies instructor and my colleague. We also have Luna Her. She is a student. She was one of my students. I'm very happy that she is able to join us today and that she went on the trip with us. And she also got a scholarship, which helped her go to the program. We also have Rafael Gomez, who was another student of mine, who also got a scholarship in order to, and helps to pay his way. And so we will hear from him. He's kind of a surprise guest, because he is now enrolled at Cal State Humboldt, but he happens to be here this weekend. And then finally, last but not least, we have Karen Crockett, who is an instructor here in English. And she also attended and participated on the trip along with her husband, Robin, who can kick in anytime he wants, but don't take over the time, okay? So we are here just to kind of share these learnings with all of you and to help you all understand that I think it's a really unique opportunity that we have at City College and community college in general to have study abroad programs, because it's not just limited to current students, people, who are working. My daughter is here, this is Jada. She attended as well, not as a student, just unofficially, but she will attend as a student in the future. So it gives a really good opportunity for people to see, different parts of the world that they maybe had never been to before. And for some of us on our program, people hadn't really traveled much, so they can talk about that as well. Okay, so we're going to kick it off with some of the slides that these people have all put together, and they're going to share their particular experiences with you. So we'll have each of them talk, we'll have a Q&A at the end, and then just time to chit chat and mingle as at the end of the program. Sound good? Okay, and we are also being live streamed on Zoom, just so you know. So everybody here might be on camera at some point. Okay, so let's see. This is our agenda that I should have mentioned at the beginning. So I just did the intro and program overview. Janice is going to talk about some of the activities and highlights of our trip. Luna is going to share some of the personal highlights that she experienced, and that as well as Rafa can contribute. And then Karen and Rigo, well, actually Rigo is going to go a little bit earlier, but they're going to talk about their thoughts about the trip as well. Okay. So this is just the basics, what we did when we went, how much it cost, just so people have an idea of what we're talking about. Most of the travel study abroad programs cost in the range of $4,500 to $5,000. And so that is, we understand, a very, big chunk of change, especially for many students. And so we have Margaret Hebert here, who is the study abroad coordinator, who helps find scholarship opportunities for students to apply. So I don't like to let people think that they just can't go because they can't afford it, because if people tell us that they are looking for scholarships, a lot of times we can try to find stuff to help. So our trip was 2 weeks long. We went to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Luang Prabang, and Vientiane, and then back to Bangkok. So I'm not going to go into all the details of where we went because these folks will cover that, but just to let you know, those are the areas that we went to, and these are some of the highlights. Okay, so let me click through, and I think here we go. This is Janice's start of Janice's presentation.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I do want to actually start, well, first, thank you for coming out to our wonderful Thailand last panel to hear what we have to say. I will tell you just personally, this is actually it was my first international trip. So I've never traveled abroad. So it was definitely a worthwhile experience, and I'm glad I took it. So I would always share with everyone, get that chance, get that opportunity to go if you can. So I'll just kind of cover some of the areas that we saw, some of the activities. And I know, I can't cover everything, but I will cover some of the highlights. So of course, with the Thailand and Laos, a lot of it had to do with culture, it had to do with civic engagement. So part of the culture area that we had a chance to visit were a lot of the temples, a lot of the stupas in all of the 4 cities that we were at. We did learn that again, there's about 30,000 temples in Thailand and 4,000 in Laos. So there's a bunch of temples, and it's nice to kind of see even in the towns, the newer areas in the towns, you'd also see a lot of the old traditional temples there. This one happens to be, of course, the Grand Palace in Bangkok, and it's actually also home to the Emerald Buddha, which is housed in there. And it's also home to the royal family, where they do a lot of their coronations, a lot of their big events that may happen there. I think the next slide has to do just a few more of the temples and stupas, but I love the idea that it's just all of them have such character. They all have their, I guess, and of course the Buddhas, there's reclining Buddhas, there's golden Buddhas, so there's a lot of different types of temples and temples there. But just kind of giving you an overview just of some of the different activities we had to do, or that we had an opportunity to do. So a lot of outdoor events. So of course, got a good workout during the 2 weeks we were there, but definitely worth it. So some of the photos you see here, I believe it was the waterfall, the Kong Si waterfall. It actually had a bear rescue center there too. And that was, I believe, in Luang Prabang, I think it was there. So we actually had a chance to go check that out, but the water itself is that color. It wasn't photoshopped at all. So those are actually legit photos there. We also had a chance when we were in Chiang Mai to go visit the Royal Project Hmong Community Village. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the activities, but just some of the hillsides there. We also had a chance to learn about sustainability, look at how they do their agricultural practices there in Chiang Mai. So the next slide there, it's just so, and I kind of broke it down into, I call it understanding history and traditions. So this is actually in Laos. So there are actually 2 areas that we actually had a chance to go visit. The 2 photos that you see on the right-hand side belong to the Ok Tok Textile Center. That was in Luang Prabang, and that's actually located along the Mekong River. What was great about that was that we actually got firsthand to see how textiles are made, all the way from the silkworms as they're looming it, weaving it into textiles, but also learning about the dyes. And what's nice about everything that they make these textiles with is that it's all locally sourced. Everything at that center is where they're able to go ahead and produce a lot of the textiles there. So that was a wonderful opportunity to check that out there.
The scarf is from this place.
Oh, yes.
So we saw the worms that were spinning the silk. We saw them actually making the silk into yarn. We saw them dyeing the silk. And yeah, it was kind of crazy. We actually ate some of the
Yeah, we ate some of the silkworms. So yeah, we got a little creative.
And the
So.
poop tea.
Oh, yeah.
Worm poop tea.
Poop tea. Yes,
It's good for you. It's supposed to be good for diabetes.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. Talk about that later on. And then on the left-hand side is also the Cope Center. So that's in Vientiane, in their capital city of Laos. So this one's a little bit more solemn, a little bit more, this side was, very hands-on, really, The one on the left was, it really makes you think about life and everything that goes on, but it's really a rehabilitation center and also an area where they provide prosthetics. Of course, Laos is, they say it's one of the most heavily bombed countries in the world. And so, and there's a lot of bombies, they call it, that are still remaining in Laos. So this organization, an NGO, basically, or like a nonprofit, will provide prosthetics and services to help individuals who have been affected by these bombs and the ravages of that, to be able to go ahead and leave at least some type of normal life. So they do help out, but it's definitely an eye-opening experience there. Other areas that we also had a chance to was about conversations and relationships and learning more about the culture. So it's kind of, I think there's a mixture in there, but you'll see we did a monk chat. So we actually had a chance to go ahead and talk to a monk and learn about Buddhism, learn about meditation. And that was actually really, really exciting. I wish we had more time. I think we were there for maybe a couple hours, but but just all the information there was just, was really good. We also, again, going back to the Hmong Village, the Royal Project there. At the Hmong Village, we also had a chance to go visit the village and meet with the shaman. And so we actually had a chance firsthand to talk to them. I know some of our students actually had a chance to get their palm read too. So that was very interesting, but it was a great opportunity to experience that. And then also, of course, hands-on. What better way, especially in a classroom setting, outside of the classroom setting, to be able to go ahead and really get a chance to be part of to learn everything firsthand. First day when we got there to Bangkok, we actually did a Thai cooking class. And I know, and we were so tired after, I think just the whole day we went to see, I think, a number of temples. I think we saw 3 temples that day. And then that night we had like a 2 to 3 hour cooking, I think, class it was, but we got a chance to enjoy it. So we ate the food that we made and I think it was fine. We're okay. So we survived. I survived, yes. But then also, we had a chance in Chiang Mai to also visit an elephant sanctuary. I think this is probably the highlight for me. I think it's just the idea that you actually had a chance to really feed the elephants. Love feeding the elephants, going into the river and bathing the elephants. But it was a great thing. And again, as you can see, everyone in blue, that's part of the elephant sanctuary. We all worked together. We were chopping up the fruits and the meals, but we all worked together to be part of that. And of course, as Gina had mentioned, we had a poo tea, but there's also a poo paper park. It's a real place also in the area. And so we actually had a chance to work with, of course, they process it and everything like that, but made poo into paper.
Elephant poo.
I'm sorry. Yeah, not yeah. Thank you. Poo. Yeah, elephant poo. Yes.
Very vibrant.
Yeah, into paper. So it was great. Next slide is, of course, it's food. So I'm just going to show food. I don't think I have to talk anything else about it, but the food was amazing.
What's the white thing?
That was a coconut ice cream bar, I believe, at one of the night markets. So yeah, but you'll see actually the fresh coconut. Oh my goodness, fresh coconut was wonderful, and the coconut juice, mango sticky rice. I mean, a little bit of everything there. So, but just. So we ate well, but it was worth it. But I was always willing to try something new. Again, the silkworm, I actually did eat 2 silkworms, so I did do it. So, but definitely food connects us all. But other things we did was also going back, really learning about the local culture there. So we actually did the morning alms. So it's the offering of food and snacks to the monks going before they go to their studies. And also just some pictures of some of the markets. So really, if you go into the morning markets, you just walk down one of the streets and you'll see a various array of different items. Sometimes they're live animals, sometimes they're vegetables, the spices, but just the vibrancy. I love the color. It was great. The next one is really about in the street market. So we went through a flower market in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, but just, beautiful flowers. It's vibrant. Some of the flowers, I have no idea what they were, but I mean, just the color. And then you can also see how they're processing it and putting those together. And I think the next picture is really more about the night market. So of course, many of you have heard about going out to the different markets. You have to check that out. The night markets are a wonderful way of really kind of finding out more about the different vendors, the street food, just kind of that nightlife there. But the food was wonderful there. I think we went to some kind of night market or night bazaar in each of the 4 cities that we were there. So it's a mix of different areas, but you'll see in a lot of the stands, different things that they'll sell. Scorpions, durian, I think. Of course, you see the skewers. But it was great to kind of just walk around and just kind of be part of the.
And we had celebrity sightings.
Yes.
At the Bangkok one. We saw Simu Liu, some of us. And
He was there.
Young Woon Suk, I looked him up. He's a Korean actor. He's super tall. Very, very handsome.
So he was there.
Out there.
Yeah, and I
He's in
think,
March.
and then just kind of just wrapping it up, I could go on and on and on, but I just want to kind of give you just an overview of some of the different areas and places we saw. But definitely a great experience, and I know the rest of my classmates will also go ahead and share their experiences and some other areas that they may like to talk about.
Janet did such a great job, like putting together her slides. I was like, we'll just let her talk about the trip because she's very thorough.
You can skip that.
Okay.
That's fine.
Nice. All right. Oops. And this is?
That is mine.
Okay.
Yes. Unfortunately, the video doesn't work, but that's when we were flying from, we were flying into Laos, and that's the Mekong River. We could skip that. And I will say one thing that I should, as a fair warning to you, is that I went as an instructor of ethnic studies, and partially it was to try to figure out some of the scholarship that I've read on Southeast Asia and trying to think through belonging and responsibility here in the Central Valley. I don't think I have to tell folks that we have a large population of Southeast Asian peoples here. But also, I don't know if we're doing the best job in incorporating stories, in providing support for language that we're doing. So my thoughts going into the trip were to figure out how I could think with the trip and folks there too, and bring that back in ways to help support maybe some of the responsibility that I think we have to that part of the world. And yeah, so for me, that was part of it. And in particular, I'm thinking of the absence of stories here, right? I think that each semester when I talk about, for example, the Secret War, a lot of folks don't know what that is. I don't know if everybody here knows what that is, but I can explain. And so I think that what I wanted to do is think through Southeast Asia, not in a way of just looking at the scholarship, but in a way of what I like to call encounter, to going there and participating with folks. And also avoiding Orientalism, which is a complicated term that we use in the discipline that I'll explain right now. And that's a mural that was in Thailand and Bangkok. So one thing that we have in the United States and in the West, I would say, is that sometimes we think to explain the East, or what folks have labeled the East as being exotic, being backwards, being mysterious, fundamentally other from ourselves. And that framing reduces the diverse and dynamic realities of Southeast Asia. And at times, it makes it seem like it's just a place for tourists to go, and they do have a big tourist industry. And in some ways, I mean, they're reclaiming it in order to make money off of it and do what they need to do. But in other ways, I think there's a lot more that can be offered from the region, and there's complex histories and nations and diversity there. And so I was going in there kind of trying to figure out, well, how could I bring some of this back to my students as an instructor to avoid some of the oversimplified ideas of this place and do it in a good way, but also celebrate the folks that are already here and encourage people to share their stories of their families in ways that are, I don't know, beautiful, wonderful. So, and then I go to Thailand and I get a Thai tea. But I was talking to the folks at the place where they were selling them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's just tea with milk." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I was like, in the US, they sell this to us as like a commodity, and like I myself, right, going through it, reflecting on it, was realizing that some of the ideas that I had too were kind of influenced by my relationship here with folks. And I don't know, it was for me, it was a complicated way of thinking through things and kind of trying to unlearn some things and learn new things too. Next. Um, as we were going through the city of Bangkok, and that is the name of Bangkok.
Full thing.
The full thing. I can't read it, but if anybody wants to read it.
Got him
Yes, I
saying
did
it.
too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And so the shorthand is Bangkok, but folks from there, right, obviously have a different way of describing the city. And so as I was walking through the city, I think for me, trying not to focus on the more glamorized aspects of it and trying to focus more on kind of like well, the graffiti art for one, but also just the way that folks kind of were living their lives. And as I'm moving through it, I was wondering like, well, what else exists out there besides just some of the places that we were visiting? And I thought it was really fascinating how folks, well, as any city, it was very cramped. And if you go to the next one, I kind of have that too. And I was also fascinated by their electrical system. It seemed very complicated, and I felt like, well, that was kind of the feel I had for the city too, where it was folks creating a life in close quarters, but also figuring it out. And I also looked where the electricity comes from in Southeast Asia, and a lot of it is from hydroelectric projects that were funded by China. And so they have a big role there, which I think it's good. It's great. Yeah. And then it was mentioned too, we visited the Buddhist monk lecture and got to learn a little bit more about Buddhism in Thailand in particular. If you go to the next one. But I was really interested, and then the next one. I was really interested that the way that somebody described it there was as cultural Buddhism. So Buddhism was a transplant, but it was readopted for the location. And some people call that syncretism, where it was mixed in with some more traditional cultural or religious and cultural thoughts and ideas. And I thought that was really, really beautiful because in my mind, I was like, Buddhism is just one thing. And they kind of told us that it was more psychological for some, but it was readopted culturally in Southeast Asia, which I thought was really beautiful too. And that's why, I don't know, some of the temples were really complex and beautiful. I was also interested in the state and Buddhism. It seems that there is a big push for Buddhism as well, some say it's not a religion, but kind of the way of organizing people's ideas about life. And what I found that I was curious about was what about some of the more ancient traditions that existed in the area? And the only place that I found them was with some of the Hmong community and the practices, but I feel like others will talk about that too. And so, but the state in Thailand in particular had a big role in encouraging the maintenance of the temples and the care for them. And I thought that was really nice. That was just a reindeer that I thought was cool at the flower shop. And that was where we went to get noodles that had the Michelin recognitions. That was beautiful too. Thanks.
We have better here.
We
have better.
See, we do.
Can you go back to the Hmong Hill tribes? So I'm not going to speak too much on it, but there was, we went to visit the Hmong Hill tribes, and that was also a very great experience. But then I looked into it more and I found out, and again, not to blame or anything, but I found out that there was a kind of contentious relationship between the Thai state and Hmong people, and that there was a big push to establish them as an agricultural community, but for the needs of the state and the market. And in some ways, I felt kind of, I don't know, that in some ways rubbed me the wrong way, but I think it's beyond me. But I was um, I was also thinking that it was in this as the state was trying to kind of develop this idea of what Thailand was. I felt that maybe our group wasn't exposed to the fullness that exists there. And so if you go on a note study abroad trip, I encourage you to show up earlier and spend some time there too. Yeah.
This one.
This one, right? Yeah. What that was in what was it called?
Chiang Mai.
Chiang Mai.
Chiang Mai.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, yeah, no, that's good. We also went to Thai fighting, which was, well, they're really athletic and that was a really cool part of it. But also, I don't know, there's a longer tradition there, and I think that we didn't get to see the fullness of the tradition and history that exists around Thai boxing. Next. One thing that I noticed also, and it was that they had their own trade relations too. But that a lot of it was geared towards tourists, because I think that's where you extract the most money from. And that was another thought that I was thinking, that we sometimes as Americans, when we travel, we tend to change places in ways to meet some of our ideas of things. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Thanks. Those are the silkworms.
Silkworm cocoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody said not everybody tried them, but many of us ate silkworms. They're good.
Tastes like papas.
Yeah, it tastes like papa. I don't know. I don't think I should talk about the Lao government. Uh, unless you want me to.
No, we don't have
Okay,
time.
to. Yeah. This was in the Mekong River. What our tour guide also talked to us about was the amount in which the extractive industries worked in Laos, and that because that was one of the main sources, you could say, for, or main motors of the economy, that there was a lot of extraction of natural resources from the area. And again, I thought, like, such a beautiful place, it's kind of a tragedy that for some, it's only a place to go get things and pull out of. And right there, they're extracting sand. But again, for folks, I mean, they work there, they make money off of it. So I'm not judging, but at the same time, I wish that we weren't so extractive in some of the things we do. And that is in Laos, it's mountainside. Those are the geckos. I thought that the relationship to nature was really beautiful and something that we could learn from. I feel like we're really disconnected from nature, and many are, but there was, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but especially in Chiang Mai, I feel like the nature was more present everywhere you went. Another area that I was thinking around, and I'll try to cut this short, was just our responsibility. The US perpetuated war in the region, and I'm sure that you all know the history of that. But part of that was bombing Laos because they didn't want to send troops there. And it's having repercussions till this day where people will step on the bombies and they'll blow up. And they are trying to clean up the areas, but it's a long process. And it made me wonder, like, well, part of the war was done in the name of the US, and it makes me think, like, what responsibility we have, at minimum, to know. But what was beautiful, and I think kind of expanded my thinking on it, was that people there weren't necessarily, well, at least the people that we talked to at the Coke place that Janice talked about, they were not trying to say, like, well, you should feel guilty and be ashamed and all that stuff. A little bit of that, but not really. It was more like, hey, we're trying to overcome what we face and we're doing it in very creative ways. We're making art out of the scrap metal from the bombs and the planes. And we have these projects where we're helping out folks that have lost limbs to the bombs that are in the ground. And it's not pity that folks need, it's just support and acknowledgement. That this happened, that the secret war was perpetuated against them, that we bombed them, and that that's still impacting their lives to this day. That's a Bombi. It's bombs that, the little tiny bombs that were spread out throughout the region, and many of them did not explode. So that's why people to this day will step on them and trigger them and be blown up. Yeah. So the prosthetic limbs that we saw. Next, more prosthetic limbs. And then I thought this was really cool, and just the complexity of the story. And this is a bag that Cope makes, and because they don't have to abide by copyright law, I think they were able to use Hello Kitty, and it says Hello Cluster Bombs, and it shows Hello Kitty with the lost limb. And so for me, it was like, well, this is really an artistic, creative way to share what happened in the region, but it's also more constructive. I think it shows that folks are organizing themselves in order to overcome what they went through and they're still facing. And I thought that was really beautiful. Oh, that's not me.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, just to end, for me, it was a learning experience that kind of helped me understand the region beyond what I was reading in the academic world. But I think that we all have a responsibility to learn more, but also create the platforms for folks to tell the stories, to share their stories, and for us to make the wider connections to that part of the world.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Luna.
Skip.
All right, cool. Hi, my name is Luna. I'm a student here at Fresno City. I am Hmong, so my parents are originally from Laos and Thailand. They are actually immigrants from there because of the secret war in Laos. So pretty much they were born and raised in Laos, and because of this war, they had to migrate to Thailand for refuge, and pretty much they had to wait and get sponsored to come to America. And I'm a product of that. So now that I'm here living in the Central Valley, I had the opportunity to go on this study abroad trip, and it was really enriching and enlightening for me to join in on. So I'm very grateful that I could experience this trip with my team. You can go back. So the slide that I had right here, kind of what Rigo said, especially as an American, I think we're kind of like so focused on just, I guess you can say, like our screens and focused on what we need to do. And I think just because of how we're just kind of geared as a society, like towards capitalist ideas, we're kind of just on the move, on the go, you know? So going to Laos and Thailand really helped me zoom out a little bit. So I got to focus on things like little critters and bugs that made me happy and made me feel more close to my inner child. And I thought that this was really healing for me because when I was younger, you know, as children, we don't have to worry about these worldly demands. So I thought it was really peaceful to experience. So yeah, I think other than the touristy and the heavy agenda that we did have, because our trip was only limited to 2 weeks, I found it really nice to kind of rejuvenate myself with meditating and just kind of really like soaking up my solitude away from the group. So what I did with that was just kind of like venturing solely like into different areas. And this was some examples of that. Me being by myself, me recharging in the bath, experiencing things by myself. Yeah. What I really valued though was connecting with others. I think, uh, since we kind of came into a group, I didn't really get to understand everybody's connection with their idea of coming to Thailand. So like when I had the ability to conversate with every single person that went in the team, it was really cool to hear about their perspectives and what we can do to kind of like guess you can say bring back home with this experience because it's a lot to unpack. I still don't think I've unpacked everything. So I don't know. I really enjoyed that though, because I think it's when you're going through the motions and you're kind of overstimulated with a lot of these ideas and concepts. I think talking to your neighbor is a very helpful thing to do. So that was something I enjoyed. Also too, sometimes I don't really feel too great when when I try articulating my thoughts and my ideas. So that's why I'm an artist. I had the ability to paint a hotel in Laos, La Prabang. I painted my roommate and me and my roommate, Nicole, she and I are both Hmong individuals. And I just felt like I wanted to represent her and our cultural story onto like the grounds of Laos. Because I think since Hmong people are an ethnic minority, not just here in the States, but also over there as well, we're not really represented that well. So for me to create that was something I was very honored to do. So I pretty much had to scatter around La Prabang trying to find paint. And I found like some low tier quality black paint and low tier quality white paint. But I was able to find some things to create a portrait of my roommate, my teammate, and there she is. Yeah. So
And she's amazing. She did this in a matter of hours because it was our last night in Luang Prabang. And this is huge. I mean, you can't tell, but it's like 6 feet tall. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty big. It's a big painting. And she did in like 5 hours, I think. And by like candlelight or flashlight. I
Yeah.
think.
Got the footage of that.
Yeah, awesome. Amazing.
it's prettier in person. Oh, you can skip. I think, okay, so something that I thought was very I don't know, powerful was when we talked to the monk and he was like I think he's like late 30s, 40s, I'm not too sure, but he was just pretty much telling us the ways of being a monk. He pretty much got into that culture, that that lifestyle at a very young age because he was an orphan. And I think he was telling us like he'd always ask the universe and it was just like, why me? Why me? And then something dawned on him and he was just like, why not? So when he said that, I thought that was pretty powerful. So why me? Why not? If you have any, questions about things, maybe that could help. I don't know. But I think that's concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Oh, did you want to just say anything to Rico? I mean, you have to go. Rico has to go.
I have to go, I have a
Okay.
5:30.
Thank you, Rico. So,
You want to say, or do you want to wait it, whatever?
I guess I can just share some stuff,
Okay.
the video I can put on when we're like done, that,
Okay.
all that stuff. I'd say this trip for me, was very, eye-opening. in sort of realizing positionality. As an indigenous person to here, I'm constantly in a context of struggle and erasure. And when I was out there in the world, like nobody knew what even Native American meant or what that was. There was literally only one person I encountered my entire time, both combining the time with the group and the time that I traveled alone, that knew what that was and could understand what it was, right? So I'm used to sort of not to like similarly to my neighbors, because I grew up here in Fresno in the hood, and all of us have very complex identities, Hmong people, indigenous people, Punjabi. We're a very rich and diverse community, and we're like a patchwork of refugees and stories that have all come into this place, and yet no one thinks of us, and we're sort of forgotten by the world around us, and our material conditions often reduce us to like, oh, they're just poor people and so on and off, and at times it even puts us at odds with one another, competing over limited resources, right? But the truth of our beings is that we're all these really complex people that come from rich histories and backgrounds, and that we're not just these material circumstances that we've been put in. And so even though I wasn't recognized for who I was very often, this trip, for the first time, I could just be a human being. And like, this more so came up during my solo traveling after the program was over, and there was less noise in terms of energy interaction with the people around me. When I was like just on my own, people would interact with me one-on-one from Thailand and Cambodia. And most of them thought I was just a neighboring people. They're like, oh, are you Indonesian? Are you Malaysian? Are you some kind of Thai? Especially in Cambodia, they kept on like, why is he with a tour guide? They don't go to their own temples and stuff with the tour guide, right? So the tour guide friend, he kept on saying, they keep on asking why. And so, and when I asked how I came off, he's like, you come off very Buddhist, right? Because as an indigenous person, there's like lots and lots of protocols to learn, nation to nation, nation to, empire and so on. And there's all these like stuff. So I was conducting myself in that way. And it was the same way that people there conducted each other, people to people, nation to nation. And so like in that way, like when I was wandering the streets of Bangkok during the day or night, or when I was like going through the countryside of Cambodia or these other things, it was like nation to nation. I was just another human. Like for the first time, I wasn't like, and it was all, the fact that I wasn't recognized for my nation was completely different. Over here, it's part of an erasure, right? Whereas over there, it was more so like there's just so many people there, so many different diverse groups and such, that it was an opportunity to learn and exchange with another people. And in that same way, I found like kinship to the people around me in the nations around me, and felt like related. And that's the same kinship that I felt here in Fresno, when like as a kid, my ball goes over the fence and it lands in my neighbor's, and then they give me back the ball and a stack of sugarcane, right? that was just like all neighbors, right? And like there's just like an understanding, over here in our communities, even if we don't really know each other's histories, there's like this kinship and understanding. And so I felt like in going over to the homelands and histories and learning that over there, I felt like a really, really deep connection that I feel coming back fulfilled a lot of like gaps,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those were the highlights.
Thank you. All right.
We don't have to show, because they've already seen those. Hi. My name is Karen Crockett. I am a student ex-instructor at Fresno City. About less than a month. Yeah. That was a way to kind of like round it off too. I need to give you a little bit of history about me to give the significance for me. And I'm gonna go completely off that script, so good. I'm a fourth generation Japanese American. My mom was 10 years old when she was interned in they used to call them internment camp, but now we call them concentration camps. And through that procedure with 128,000 other Japanese Americans, the topic of erasure has always resonated here, which brought me at Fresno City to, and as a person who's Japanese, who doesn't speak Japanese, cause I apologize. Okay. Every time I would see her in the hallway and she'd be speaking Japanese, it would hurt. So, when I was asked to teach in a Southeast Asian program with Cami and with Chai, two of my beloved colleagues that I will miss horribly. I jumped at the chance 20 years ago, and it was the Southeast Asian program. I was bound and determined that nobody was going to erase anybody else off the face of the earth. So through the program, I am constantly learning about Southeast Asian cultures, but I'm always an outsider still. I'm an outsider as a Japanese, as an American, because we were interned, as a Japanese teaching in a Southeast Asian program. But for 20 years, I have taught in this program, and I've never been able to see what it was like in Cambodia or in Laos and Thailand. So I wanted to go, but I wanted to go with a different perspective. So we had colleagues there. We had students who were amazing. And I have to tell you, the highlight of the whole trip was this art that she made and some of our experiences. And watching other students exchange with a Hmong shaman, a medicine bag. So that is us. Linda is the one in the middle is a librarian here. We went to a place called Okpok Tok, which is a center for women to make their own textiles and stuff. We were so entranced with the place that we decided that we were gonna bail and go and take a 3-hour weaving class, and we made those. So it was awesome. It was incredible.
And there you are, in the bottom.
Yeah. So learning to be.
So
That's okay. It's my husband. Learning to embrace being Asian on any level, I am like super supportive of. Learning to embrace everything that you are is super important to me. So as I'm rounding down my tenure here, I'm passing on to students. So they have taught me for 20 years. My students have taught me like every day they teach me things. And I'm always amazed. So learning, being there and knowing a great deal from students was just like an incredible experience. People talked about the Cope Center when we were there. I have taught about the United States bombing Laos and it being the most heavily bombed country in history of the world. And so I felt compelled to be able to do something about it. And at the end of our trip, my husband and I contacted a woman that we know who started a nonprofit organization taking used wheelchairs from the United States to Nicaragua and El Salvador. we tried to set up a pipeline to Laos to the Cope Center to provide wheelchairs, but I haven't heard anything back. When I finish my tenure here, I'm hoping that I can reconnect there. But being other in this society, I now embrace with a fervor that has made me who I am today. And my students have made me who I am today. So I'm really gonna miss them, but I think I'm gonna not do the next year. They have a trip to Japan because I've never been to Japan. I don't speak Japanese. I'm a little worried. But when I go, I want to stay, and I want to stay where my family's from and kind of keep searching for who I am. So anyway, I know I
Thank
kind
you.
of wandered off topic there. Sorry.
That is Nicole, the one who's like this. It's more than 6 feet tall. How did you get up there? Did you have a ladder?
I don't know. I don't know. I think a chair. Standing on my tippy toes. I made it happen.
The statue of Buddha that's over here, the golden statue, really impressed me because the story was that, and then they gave out, or you could buy little pieces of paper with gold, pressed gold on it. And I saw all these people peeling these off and sticking them to the back of the Buddha. And the story is that when you give, you don't want to receive back. So they put it on the back of the Buddha so that it's not like you want something back. You're just giving, which I thought was really pretty incredible.
And that bottom left picture is us taking a boat up the Mekong River to those Guangxi waterfalls. That was quite an experience too for some of our students who were on there.
Gina,
Yes.
from Thailand side to the Laos, what the city you went through?
We went from Chiang Mai, we had to fly
Oh,
all the way back down to Bangkok, and then from Bangkok back up to Luang Prabang. There was no direct flight between them, even though they're like right here.
Did you cross the Mekong River?
No, no, we were already in
Okay,
Laos at this
yeah.
point.
I was curious now, I did that in
Oh.
1970s, yeah.
It's huge, it's a huge
Yeah.
river, I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
can't
how did
imagine.
You guys cross exactly the Mekong River?
We didn't cross it, we were just going
Yeah,
up it.
Oh, going up.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. I was curious more about that. Yeah.
Oh, this thing. And so after on our final day, we had kind of a panel, and then we sort of did a little class debrief. And I had all the students, all the participants do a little exercise of coming up with 3 words that sort of just summarized what they felt about the trip. And so this is a little, what do you call it? Word cloud that includes all of the words that people talked about as something that they experienced as part of this trip. So I thought I'd put it in the shape of an elephant because we love the elephants when we were there. So, yeah, I think that, I mean, you could see the people that came on this trip were amazing. And so I just wanted to invite them all back so I could see them again, but also just share, this magical time that we had with all of you. And hopefully inspire many of you to travel abroad, lead programs abroad, join other programs, and encourage your students. One of the things that I was a little disappointed at was that we didn't have more Southeast Asian students participate in this program. When I designed it with Cami was the other lead faculty that was supposed to go. We really thought that there was going to be a lot more interest among our Southeast Asian students, and especially because we were going to Thailand and Laos, places that many of them had family histories but had never been to themselves. But we really didn't have that many people of that background.
This was pretty high.
The interest list was high, but when it came down to actually,
Yeah, I think also money financially.
well, yeah, that was
expensive.
right.
So even though they have scholarships, it's limited. Market, I think it's only 4 or 5 per district, correct?
Yeah, because it's just me, I'm a one person.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So we try 5, that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's scholarships, right? Scholarships. Oh, scholarships?
For scholarship to the one who study abroad.
Well, there's the Gilman, there are some local ones, then our foundation has some.
But I don't know a lot.
They're out there, but students have to look, yeah.
Yeah.
And I help them find them.
How many students got scholarship?
On this trip, these two, both of them got scholarships.
I see.
Out of 78 students, a quarter of them got some kind of scholarship. Mhm.
So I think that's one of the main reasons why,
Yeah.
because I did see a lot of Southeast Asian students that were really interested. But because of, money, I mean, they can't afford it. Financial aid, I mean, it covers things, but
Yeah.
not enough.
It's
So I think,
difficult.
in the future, because this is our first time,
Right.
Doing something like this. I think perhaps even like really planning ahead to do fundraisers.
Yeah,
Helping our students, maybe a whole year out before actually going on a trip, help them find money.
yeah.
So I think that's, for those who are might be interested in doing study abroad, I highly recommend that. Like planning 2 years out, really. So
Right.
really, I mean, the best thing is to have our students, right? The ones who can afford it to go.
Mhm. Would you have any tips or advice?
Absolutely agree with that. I saw at the campus I'm at now, like some people fundraising to go to Germany for Oktoberfest. And they were like the German club or something like that.
Mhm.
And, they were like repping the culture and other stuff, products, so that they could afford to take a trip like that, right? And, when I was here on campus, the Asian American Club had plenty of things going on where they would make stuff like that. And so I think it's entirely viable to organize the community because obviously the interest is there, but because of the background of how we end up here, we don't exactly have the largest wealth in terms of dollars, right? Like we have other kinds of wealth. We have community, we have, history, food, language, culture, where we can find our wealth, but our dollar wealth in a lot of our communities here is not as high where we can easily go and do stuff like that,
On the flyer where students apply for programs, one of the programs is called Funding Study Abroad. And we update scholarships like the Gilman or the Foundation or EDCU, Golden One, and tell them how to do things like GoFundMe pages for study abroad. So we try really hard to help them find the money, and a lot of them do it with scholarships and financial aid. Very few, I think, are actually self-funded, but some are.
Luna, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was about to say, coming from like among individual, I think knowing how our parents are, I think it's kind of like when we see the price, it's kind of discouraging.
Yeah.
I think, and also too for our elders, it is kind of a touchy subject to talk about revisiting a place that they had to like leave from. So I think maybe that's why most of the students may have been discouraged. I'm not exactly too sure, but that's something that I think we can help support them through that financially and also like emotionally too, because it was really hard for me to like put my big girl pants on and say I'm doing this, So I think
What were the
maybe
scholarships you
The Gilman.
did the Gilman.
I think the same.
Oh, you both did great.
Yeah.
No, yours was through the State Center Community College Foundation.
That.
Oh, you got a.
These nights help though, like I had zero interest in moving in. So Janice invited me here tonight.
Ah,
And the visuals and the story and the passion from what I hear from your story, that helps motivate.
great. Thank you. We can open it up for questions since we have everybody here. We have about 15 minutes left.
I just wanted to pitch next year's Japan is full, sorry.
Oh, wow.
400 students applied for 30 spots, so it's.
Yes.
But South Africa, and Ireland have rooms for students if they're interested in next year.
Oh,
They're all with you.
and FYI, I just submitted a proposal for South Korea for summer 26.
So if you're interested in going to South Korea, think about that.